Operations and Engineering at Nex-Tech Wireless. I'm responsible for end-to-end small cells, RAN, everything network kind of goes through my office. Nex-Tech Wireless is a Tier 3 regional operator. So what I'm going to do is go through a little bit about who we are, and then a little bit about what our problem was and how we overcame it. Okay, how small cells conquered a stadium. When I hear the word conquer, it brings visions of Attila the Hun and things like that. We didn't quite do that, but we certainly overcame a customer issue. A little bit about where I'm from. A short 12-hour and 35-minute flight will get you from where we are now to where I live. You can see that's a pretty wide angle, so let's zoom in just a little bit here. So there's a little closer look at Kansas, Hays, Kansas, and Nex-Tech Wireless, where I'm from. We need to zoom in just a little bit more to get a good look at my market. This is home for us. This is where we serve. We provide 3G and 4G services, 3G on CDMA, 4G on LTE, obviously. The landmass you see there is approximately the size of Portugal or South Korea. That's about how wide our network serves. So a little bit about Nex-Tech Wireless, who we are and what we do. 339 cell sites, that's on the CDMA side. We serve 46 counties in Kansas and Colorado in the United States. Our total coverage area is about 36,920 square miles. Converted to English or standard, that's 95,000 square kilometers, or as I said, about the size of Portugal or South Korea. We have 60,000 subscribers. Our current push is to get from where we are with 3G to where we're going with 4G. So you can see of our 339 cell sites, 75 are currently 4G LTE enabled, and the rest will be by the end of the year. Another 132 will be, and then just continuing to do that in the next couple of years here. Competitors in our marketplace: Verizon Wireless, AT&T, and Viera Wireless, as well as another couple of regional operators. As a small Tier 3 operator in this space, it's very important that we remain flexible and that we over-provide on services. We garner about a 60% market share in the area that I showed you. That's 60% of the population, not 60% of the cell phones that are available. So we're winning. We're doing it by providing key customer service and providing a better experience to our customers than the big guys do in our areas. Now, it's important for us to partner with nationwide coverage. Obviously, those counties that we service, our customers travel outside of them. So we partner with Sprint, US Cellular, and the Competitive Carriers Association is an affiliated group of carriers our size in the United States that we roam on as well. Just a little bit about our network environment. Our CDMA network is Alcatel-Lucent. We have the items listed there, a 5E, ECP. On the LTE side, we are an Ericsson shop. Currently, our cells are on release 14A, and we have the network elements listed there. A look at the problem child. This is the venue that we identified as needing to have a solution. The way that we were able to identify this is, unfortunately, the worst way that you want to hear about it. We had a large event take place in this venue. It was a wrestling tournament of all things. The stadium holds about 7,000, around 8,000, near 8,000 people. That's how many it can seat. Now, when we have these wrestling tournaments are a unique thing. People kind of fill the whole thing up. They're not necessarily just sitting in seats. And there's a lot of downtime. So what that causes is a lot of Netflix, a lot of Hulu, a lot of people watching TV on their smartphones. So we heard a lot of complaints. There was a lot of congestion on the network. Obviously, we saw a significant amount of blocking on our LTE macro that services the venue. So customer complaints were large. We identified that we had another event that we believed would be about the same size. We had a graduation coming up on March 15th. The wrestling event was on February 28th. So we had 75 days to fix it and get something in place and get customer experience better. A little bit about the venue. Obviously, it's 322,000 square feet. There's 3 unique coverage areas. I'll talk more about those later. And then there's also an attached administrative park building that we'll go through when we show the network diagram itself. A solution. This is what the solution had to do. So we were going to evaluate everything that was available had to meet the demands of not only basketball season, when most of the seats were full, but wrestling, other high attendance events in the area. There are various fairs, certainly wrestling tournaments like we talked about, concerts, all sorts of things that go on in this venue. 6,000 to 7,000 attendees at most events. And here's the key I talked about a little bit. 60% of the people in our area are on our service. So of those 6,000 to 7,000 attendees, we can expect that 60% of those will have our phones, and of those, 70% will have our LTE smartphones. So certainly a high capacity, high need, intensive bandwidth for a short amount of time type of special event area. We needed the experience to be seamless. If a customer knows that they're on something that's not the regular network, we've failed. They need to have a seamless experience. They need to be able to do everything that they could do inside this building that they could do outside, and handover has to be seamless as well. Macro feature and performance parity. There are a few things that our macro does specific to multi-frequency band indicator, and a few other things that had to be supported by whatever solution we chose. So those things are very important. Scalable capacity. I can't stress enough how important it is for a Tier 3 operator to be scalable. I can't put in a solution and 3 years later have to replace it. The CapEx and OpEx just does not work. It has to be a long-term solution. It has to be something that can grow with us. Low cost. Obviously, cost is number one. Very important to us. We have to stay within a reasonable budget. Rapid deployment. Obviously, as I said before, we had 75 days from really evaluation, implementation, planning, and deployment to get to this next event. Here were the options that we had. There is an existing off-air DAS in this building that we use to provide 3G voice services throughout the building. Two problems with that. Obviously, a high-cost forklift upgrade. We would have had to completely replace the electronics to allow 4G to pass through this thing at the level that we wanted it to. The other problem is it taps off of an already overloaded macro cell. Anytime you use an off-air type solution to do this, you're stealing capacity from somewhere else. The cell that services this area is on a very busy college campus, so even in lieu of the events, there is still a lot of other capacity going on. Not a very good solution for us. Remote radio head solutions. So several of the large manufacturers like to think that you can take a base station and just distribute it through a facility like this. You can take and mount a remote radio head that you would normally mount on top of a tower somewhere within the building and just distribute the antenna throughout. This is a very difficult thing to get a building owner to let you do. It's a very large, very complicated, very difficult to install. So it's obviously space and licensing considerations made that one not a good answer for us. Standalone small cells came as kind of the other natural option that we could do. The difficulty with standalone small cells is backhaul, for one. You have to get backhaul to each and every area where you want to provide a small cell. The next difficulty is frequency planning. Areas where you can see two of the standalone small cells, your throughput suffers. So RF planning, the difficulty of installation made that not a starter for us. Airvana's one-cell product is a cloud RAN solution, and it was the one that was eventually chosen through this selection process. The reason that it was chosen was ease of installation, low cost, and previous experience with Airvana. Airvana provides our 3G small cells, not only indoor but outdoor, and so we have a long-standing relationship with them that we were able to leverage to get a solution for this as well. Quick, just hit on this side quickly because we'll go through the deployment kind of in detail, but it needed to be a multi-carrier solution. We have both 1900 megahertz PCS and 700 megahertz. We operate our LTE in both spaces. Our PCS also operates in 1900 megahertz for our CDMA. So we had to do both. We had to take advantage of all of the capacity that we have available. Obviously, the more bandwidth we could deploy, the more we could serve our users. One thing that's important to point out here is backhaul. I mentioned that as a problem for deploying these standalone small cells. With the one cell system, we were able to provide backhaul to one area and then distribute it throughout the facility. This was key. We were able to partner with the university and partner with our existing service providers to get a large circuit in a very short amount of time. It was a fiber-fed circuit, obviously, and really was no issue. It was probably the easiest thing to get done. A closer look at the deployment. So the building stacks up into 3 different floors. The first floor is the Coliseum. It's the bottom level, it's the entry, it's where the running track is. Normally during basketball events and things like this is not a high capacity area. However, during our wrestling tournaments, a lot of our users are very sedentary, sitting in this area using high amounts of data. So it was an important area for us to cover. It's also where people come into and leave the building. So it's the area of handover. Very important to have strong coverage in this area. The second floor. There are stairs from the first floor to the second floor. The second floor is where the concession areas are, and it's also where a number of the VIP seating is. So it's a very important area for us. You can see we deploy 3 sets of RPs. You'll notice each time we deploy an RP inside the Coliseum, we deploy 2, so that we can do the 1900 and the 700 both and provide the maximum amount of bandwidth for our customers. You can see the location of the controller. It has a single controller and then 2 power over Ethernet switches. The system is very easy to install. It just uses Cat5 Ethernet, and the 1 fiber junction that we talked about goes to that controller, and then it's spread through the RPs. The RPs are easy to install. I've heard throughout the conference people talking about Wi-Fi-like installation. This is more than Wi-Fi-like installation. It's Wi-Fi installation. Literally just installing an access point on a clip to a ceiling. Very simple. We were able to do the physical installation in 3 days. That includes cabling, installation of every radio point, start to finish. So here's where most of the seats are. The floor 3 is actually, these RPs are suspended from the roof. This covers the most of the seats. There are high rises on both sides, as you can see. So this is where most of the capacity and coverage is focused on, and you can see we deployed 4 sets of radio points for this area. Oh, all right. Cunningham Hall. So adjacent to the arena itself, there's a office building, administrative, there's a swimming pool in it, some locker rooms, racquetball courts, weight rooms. So in this area, we just deployed the 1900. This is more of a capacity play than a coverage play. There's not a lot of people in this area at any one given time, so we were able to deploy just the 1900 and serve them without any difficulty. Okay, here's a close look at the diagram so you can get a feel for how the system works. We have the radio controllers, and then you can see the fiber connections that go from one radio controller to the others, and then out from the controllers to the RP is simply just Cat5 Ethernet all the way to the radio points. You can see on the diagram there where we've deployed 10 megahertz of 700. That's what we have available in the market that we launched this, and then 5 megahertz of 1900. The rest of our 1900 spectrum is used for voice and 3G data, so 700 is where we really have room to provide this capacity. Timeline. Again, I've mentioned a very compressed timeline. We had less than 75 days from conception, acceptance, to live event time. So what we did was we took laboratory and field testing, we brought a 1 cell into our office. We were able to serve our office building and our laboratory off of it, just to get a feel for it, just to make sure that it did what we wanted it to do, that it met our expectations and would serve our customers well. Once that field validation was done, we began the arduous process in late April of trying to get this installed, commissioned, and brought on air before that May 15th graduation date. As you can see, we were successful. There were really no roadblocks along the way. We were able to very easily get the physical installation done, and installation and tuning went very well, and the graduation, the live use happened really without a hitch. Conclusion. It was a resounding success. Nex-Tech Wireless and Airvana were able to deliver a superior customer experience. We remember at the beginning, one of our goals was timeline and customer experience. You never know until your customers tell you whether or not you missed the mark. And certainly in previous events, we had a lot of customer complaints and had missed the mark in a very big way. Compared to this event, we received no customer complaints. Obviously, we seeded the market. We had several of our engineers kind of seeded throughout the graduation, doing speed tests, probably more than they should. As engineers, we like to speed test. We like to make sure that things are going as fast as they can. And we're able to get 50 meg down throughout most of the event. So it was very successful for us. Excellent throughput during the event. And again, I want to stress that this was conceived, executed, and deployed in less than 90 days. So our conclusion is that the one cell met our objectives, both time to market and customer experience. Now, for us, the next question is, where do we go from here? What are we going to do with it now? A lot of areas that line up with this stadium and have some of the similar problems are hospitals, large enterprise customers, certainly any area that we cannot, with the macro, provide either coverage or capacity to an indoor area. This solution certainly bears out. It's something that it's a tool that we needed for our toolbox, and it helps us be flexible and provide the best possible service to our customers. Compared to our DAS solution, when we looked at upgrading the DAS solution in this building and price that out and look at the full forklift upgrade, the one cell was about half that cost. So it's very cost effective and something that really is a great tool for us and something that we have to remain flexible and to remain competitive against those tier 1 competitors in our market.